welcome to Surrender School. Welcome, everyone. We're so glad you're here. I am so excited about being here and learning from Cher on the Enneagram stuff and recovery. I am super stoked, so I'm glad you're here with me. Our mission statement at Surrender School, we recover. Our mission is to share 12-step and other supportive recovery solutions with those who want to live free from disordered or unhealthy eating. Now remember, we're not an official 12-step meeting, but we do try to adhere to the spirit of the traditions. We have a lot of content on the website from past step studies, book studies, different retreats. Right now, we've got a Wednesday literature meeting going. We're starting this EEE 12 Enneagram workshop. There's meditations on the site. There's also a section called Work the Steps, where you can work the steps on your own, or you can use that with a sponsor in order to work the steps, or a sponsee. In the future, I believe it's September 1st, we've got a Joe and Charlie step study starting. I'm super excited about that, and we're always adding more stuff to the website, so check there every once in a while. If Surrender School has helped your recovery, please donate. We have website hosting costs, Zoom costs, other kinds of nonprofit costs. So if you can find the donate button on the website's front page. And also join our WhatsApp group. It's a great way to meet people, get phone numbers, figure out what's going on Surrender School, kind of keep in the loop. And if you are willing to be a sponsor, please put an S after your name. In this group, in any of the Surrender School workshops, also on the WhatsApp group, and so that people can find you and you can find people to sponsor. All right, let's do the set aside prayer, and we're going to dive in. God, help me to set aside everything I think I know to leave space for what I have yet to learn. Take it away, Cher.
I'm so glad that everybody's here. I'm going to cover, this is the 0-0 session, because session 0 is next week, session 1 is the week after, and so forth. So this is an intro, because you'll understand why I'm doing this as a separate thing later in the session. I'm actually now calling this the Exploratory Enneagram Empowered 12-Step Workshop, because we are going to explore much more deeply this time around. If this is your first time through, you'll be guided, so no problem there. If this is your second time through, this is the time when you're really going to get to explore more deeply than you have in the past. So I'm excited about this. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. At least that's my goal, to make it that. All right. So the goal of this, remember, this is a personal journey. And our focus is to help each of us understand the relationship between your false self and your true self, that true self that is you, and to treat yourself with unrelenting compassion because you're human. We do this by recognizing the unseen forces that drive our behavior. In 12 steps, sometimes those are called defects. In Enneagram, they're called passions, sometimes defenses. And then the fixations or perceptions, which are the stories we tell ourselves. So we recognize those unseen forces, which are those stories we tell ourselves, the actions that we take, the behavior, especially when we misbehave, right? And then, and the way we do that is by catching ourselves in the act when our ego causes us to act out our more persistent defects. And then the final piece I want to put on this is this course will give you some type-specific tactical suggestions that help you return to yourself. And I found that because the last time through, I got feedback from people, and the feedback from people very often would let me know that, oh, this was really impactful, this was very helpful to me, and so forth. I found this saying, and I really liked it. If being hard on yourself worked, it would have worked by now. right? So, and I like the picture too. So the idea is to be kind to yourself, unrelenting compassion. So if you catch yourself in the act, I have a friend that comes to the reading room, and she says when one of her defects crops up, in her particular case, it's anger, she goes, "Oh, hi, anger, my old friend," right? And recognizes it and realizes that she's wired that way, right? I am going to, I'm trying to be very religious about not repeating myself in the session and in the homework. But this time, I think I need to do this for those that are new. Those that attended last time or have seen the video, just realize this is about the only thing I think I'm going to repeat. I want to talk for a minute about my background, just mostly just to give the credibility more than anything. So I have been in the OA program for 20 years. So my 12-step program hasn't been OA. I haven't delved into any of the others, but I have been in 20 years in OA. And I've recently been learning the Enneagram. So within the last 5 years or so, in the last 2 years, I've been made it a true study of the Enneagram. I am an Enneagram 8. I have the characteristics of an 8, which is called the Challenger. And my background is that I was a software and training leader. And during that period of time, I learned that I'm really good at taking, and it's a gift from God. This isn't me. I mean, I didn't do this. I just learned that, oh, I'm good at this. I can take complex concepts and turn that into tactical, practical actions. So that's really what the thing is about, is how do you take all this and make it something that you can actually use in your life. This is me. Probably, maybe I'll say before recovery, and then this, of course, is a picture of me now, and even more than the weight loss. I at one point in time, I think I lost 120 pounds. I'm keeping about 85 or so of it off for the last 7 years. And I put my LinkedIn profile there in case you want to check anything out about me. Anyway, mostly, like I said, I'm covering this just so that you know that my background a little bit. Okay, so some things to keep in mind. I am not an expert on anything. I'm not an expert on the 12 steps. I'm not an expert on the Enneagram. I am an expert on nothing. And so that means that you're going to read things that disagree with what I say to you, and that's fine. It's good because it's all just learning for me too. All right, recovery is a process, not an event. Self-contempt stops spiritual growth. I learned this. This is a saying from me, not anybody else. What I found as I work the 12 steps over and over and over, when I work with other people, this isn't true, but when I'm working them myself with my sponsor, I work them over and over, and I found myself going further and further into self-contempt. And I realize it's like my higher power says, you can hate yourself or you can grow spiritually, but you can't do both. You choose, I'll wait. So I choose spiritual growth. I don't want to, and I got really tired of beating myself up all the time. All right. In this session, which is different than the last one, sharing is necessary, because this is literally, you'll see as we go through this, I'm going to explain kind of all the things. But the two reasons that sharing is necessary in this session, in this entire course, is first of all, we need to hear ourselves say things out loud. We need to get it out and say it out loud. We need to do that for ourselves. But also, there'll be other people that are of a similar type that haven't articulated whatever it is that you're saying yet. And then it's an awareness for them. They're like, oh, yes, that's me too. So that's the reason. Right now, in the vast majority of stuff is me, the last time was me talking. And if you're not an 8, much of what I say, it's like I'm speaking a slightly different language, because I'm looking at what a 2 does. I'm looking at what a 3 feels. I'm looking at that as opposed to experiencing it. So that's why all the types, I mean, just for the course itself, there needs to be sharing. So it's a different format this time, specifically because I want lots of sharing. Okay, the structure allows you to focus on your own type if you would like, but you also can focus on others because we have other types that are in our lives, okay? The additional info that I'm bringing in here will help you understand others for sure. And then, so we have, the first time around, it was basically moved awareness, right? That we really were working on awareness of what's the nomenclature, what are all the words inside of the Enneagram practice and all that kind of stuff. And now we're moving into the acceptance. How do I learn to accept myself so that I can truly be compassionate to myself? And then there'll be probably at the beginning of the year, we'll do type by type by type. And that's like action. What are some actions that I can take in order to do that? The cadence pretty much is going to be questions about this week's video, and that's the step or the Enneagram, and then sharing on the challenge, because each week we give a challenge, and then there'll be tactical, practical exercises that are done here in class, and then also additional information and then other questions and so forth. Okay, I heard this and I really liked it. So this is a map of the Rocky Mountains. It is a map. Everybody knows what a map is. Okay. And if you were standing here looking at this mountain, that's called life. I'm standing like actually in the Rocky Mountains. All right. And so if you think about it, the Enneagram is like the map and life is the experience. So what happens is all the stuff I'm covering is so that you basically have the map that you can then say, is this really a mountain, right? And your life is where you experience the stuff. And that's one of the reasons also that now, instead of just these words that I can kind of apply, we're going to learn to actually say, okay, how do I use the map to help explain my experience? That's what we're trying to do, because we want to be able to have better relationships with other people, to understand ourselves better, to be of more service, you know, all the stuff that we want in our 12-step program. This is just a good way for us to be able to do that. So one of the reasons I'm doing sharing, a lot more sharing instead of all about me, is something called the boredom of sameness, right? Basically, you hear me blah, 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 talk for 12 weeks straight. And at some point in time, right, people fall away because it's like, oh God, I hear that one's voice one more time, I'm going to kill myself, right? So some of it's that. But I also think that there's just something about learning from the people who really, really are living that type, right? There's nothing that replaces that quite like actually living it. So we're going to do that. Okay, so here are some improvements we have this time around in the class. First of all, the fill-in handouts are ready from the start. So they're out there right now for you to go ahead and print them out. Those of you that came last time, I don't know, session 4 or 5, something like that, before Cynthia, thank you, suggested that I do the maybe we could fill these in ourselves, right? So you have them now in all the different types. Another one is interactivity, true interactivity. And then there is no book to buy or to read, because everything is going to be covered basically either in the homework or in the session itself. Now, one of the things that I know is that people will do what you ask them to do. And I know this just from, you know, I don't know, 40 years of adult education. And that is, this time around, I am asking you for something different. And that is, I'm asking you to share. I'm asking for people, even if you feel uncomfortable, right, raise your hand and let's share. I really want you to challenge yourself to do this, especially those that have been, and I'm going to say this, especially those that have been through the class before, because between the first time you heard it and now, there's things that you've observed and you've seen. And not only would it be helpful to you to be able to say that, but it's helpful to the other people in the room to hear you say it too. So the other thing that happens is sometimes it's almost like Zoom sessions when they're all like a teacher outward, like I have been. What happens is it's almost like watching television, and you can easily disengage and half listen and all that. Whereas if there's like a change in who is talking and what they're talking about and what their perspective is and all that, it is more engaging. And certainly if you're the one speaking, it's more engaging as well. I want to say the other thing that happens here is you get out of every class, every experience, that you get out what you put in, right? So if you're willing to put something in, you're going to get something out for sure. Absolutely. So I am teaching you now, right? I basically let you know last time because I was kind of afraid of that I wasn't expert enough to be teaching this. And what I learned is you're all accepting whether I'm an expert or not, which is awesome. So this time around, I really want to open it up for sharing, and I really want people to share. Okay. So now what I'd like you to do, for those who did attend, I'm going to ask you to share. And once again, I have a list of things: relationships, steps, titles, icons, mantras, instincts, types, all of that, all kinds of things that we covered last time. I'm going to stop sharing, and we are going to share a little bit about things that you learned. So now what I want to do is I'm going to go back to gallery mode. And what I'd like you to do is, if you feel like, if you were at the sessions last time, I'm counting on you to come back and tell just something that you learned, something that you learned about yourself, something that you learned about the Enneagram. And I'm looking around at people that I know, and I'm like, I know you, you've been to the sessions before. All right. All right. So we've done all the sharing on all these different things, those little characters there. You'll understand what those are about here if you are new to the session. All right, we'll be using icons, mantras, gut feelings as we navigate the details of each of the Enneagram types. For those of you that this is the first time through, I'm going to really encourage you to focus on your own type, because there's a lot of information. It will feel like a fire hose to you if you focus on all of it. So focus on your own type is your best bet. For those of you who've been through once, who've already focused on your type quite a bit, maybe start kind of looking a little bit at the types of, your spouse, your kids, your friends, like that kind of stuff. That might be helpful to you as well. All right. Time-wise, we're looking okay, but I'm just going to mention the cities. So number one, the first city is Paris. The second is, I don't know if anybody knows this, but that is Dubai. Number three is Kuala Lumpur. Number four is Sydney, Australia. Five is London. Six is Hong Kong. Seven is Copenhagen. And eight is Moscow. And these are some of the cities that I went to when I traveled the world. And the reason that I'm talking about that is because I'm going to give you a history on why I'm doing what I'm doing in this class. I traveled the world for about a decade, all over the world, everywhere except Antarctica. I went to every other continent and I taught. And in 2008, the bottom fell out of the economy. And all of these big companies, SAP, Oracle, Microsoft, IBM, Hewlett Packard, all of them would not allow their people to travel. So when I was in Paris, all of the SAP people would travel in France to Paris to come to my class. And they stopped allowing their people to travel. So we were like, well, now what do we do? I mean, that's what we do for a living. How are we going to keep our business? So we went on the equivalent back then of Zoom, and we taught that way, and we taught exactly the same, and it didn't work out very well. So about 2 months in, we said, okay, this isn't working. So we did something that is called flip the classroom. And what that is instead of in the class, I'm teaching all the stuff, all the content is covered, and then at home, you do your lessons. Flip the classroom says basically that the content, the training piece, you do at home. And now that we have the content from the last sessions, as basically you've got the videos for that, you learn the content at home. And then what happens is we get to apply the lessons in the sessions. So that's the reason I keep talking about there's more sharing, because literally there are going to be exercises where people are absolutely sharing, like learning as we're going. And the reason that I can say that I know that this is true is because learning is remembering something so you can do something with it. If it's just conceptual and you remember it, but you haven't used it at all, you're not actually like touching it, feeling it, doing something with it, that's not real learning. So what happens here is that a lot of the people in the shares that were here earlier, people were saying things like, I realized this, right? Because it isn't just isn't that interesting? It's like, I literally in my life am realizing this. It's the difference between the map and the real mountains, right? I'm actually living this. I can feel this in my life, okay? What made the last session successful, it was lots of new information every week, which most people appreciated because it was a lot. I did a step difficulty by each type, which we will do again. Like, what makes step one difficult for each of the different types, step two for each of the different types, and so forth. And then also the weekly challenges. They obviously the mantras, people love those, but the weekly challenges, I think people enjoy doing those because they were challenges. All right, what will make this successful are those same things, but the major difference is you're going to watch the videos for the content. So before you come to class, you're going to watch the video about session 0 for next week. And then in the class, you're going to learn how to apply what we learned in the sessions for your type. And then, so that allows me, it's the same content that we had last time, but we get to dig deeper. So those of you that are through this the second time, you're going to dig deeper. The people coming through the first time, you will dig deeper too, but yours will be almost specifically in your own. It's too much if you're trying to do everything. So in your own type only. And then the way we're going to do that is sharing, because you will learn more from listening to someone who is your own type than you could ever learn from somebody like me talking about another type. You just will. That we know that that is a fact of life. That's the way it works, right? In all of these sessions. Okay. Let's see. So what I want to talk about real quick is most of us are in a 12-step program, and as much as possible, right? We have in the early stages of our recovery, we basically, as much as possible, we've given up the addictive behavior and we live sober as much as we can possibly do. Some people are really good at it. I'm not really good at it, but I'm pretty good at it. So, but we stop our addictive behavior and we live soberly. Ernie Larson wrote something called Stage 2 Recovery. And Stage 2 Recovery says not only do we live as clean as we can, right? But we challenge our attitudes, our behaviors, and our beliefs to ask if they align with reality. Is what I'm doing, am I seeing the truth here? Can I catch myself in the act? Can I see the way that I'm behaving? And right. And what I found, at least for me, I don't change anything. I notice it, and then I ask God to help me change it, or ask God to change it. And very often the softening for an 8, that's what has to happen, is there has to be a softening, but I can't do that myself because it's temporary if I do it myself. Our personality traits will always be there. That ego structure will always be there. It will always be there. We just learn to navigate it. We learn to live with it. We learn to accept and love it, right? Not be in love with it, right? But we learn that, oh, okay, I'm wired this way. Oh, anger. Well, hi, old friend, right? It's that, okay? And we absolutely learn that. All right. So this course ties the Enneagram to the 12 steps. Those of you that took it last time know that. So I am absolutely a 12-step person that still always in the learning mode in both the 12-step and Enneagram, but this ties those two together, right? So next week, you're going to watch the video for session 0, okay? And then in the session, we're going to apply what we've learned. So I'm asking you to trust me because I did exercises on Zoom-ish, Zoom-like thing for, I don't know, 7 years. Working with people and basically getting them to act, right? Getting them to do something with this. Sometimes in the session because you'll share about it, and then sometimes the challenge is on your own. And it was really fun to hear people come back and talk about when they tried the challenges, the weekly challenges that we do. For those of you that were around last time, you know that right in the middle of the course, my sister's husband went into the hospital and then he passed away. And so the last few weeks didn't have very specific weekly challenges. So I'm going to go back and refurbish those and really give you some really, really good weekly challenges. So hang around for those because that'll be really fun. Okay, so I did promise that this week we're going to cover some content that isn't part of the other and that isn't part of the last session. And what this is going to be covered is I am going to cover what I have learned since about the instincts. And I think I've said, you'll notice in probably session 5 or so that I talk about, I think 4 and 5, I talk about the instincts. And I say that some people cover the instincts first. And so that's what we're doing right now. I'm going to cover the instincts first, just so that everybody understands that I'm going to go a little bit deeper into the instincts because the instincts really do. In one of the sessions, I talk about the fact it's almost like we put on armor. We have our true self that our ego wants to protect, and we put on this armor. And the first step away from true self is the instinct, because we have all 3 of these instincts, but one is dominant, right? So there's a self-preservation instinct, a social instinct. So the self-preservation is a withdrawing kind of instinct. The social instinct is the instinct to connect. And then the sexual instinct is kind of an approaching instinct. So all 3 of those, we have all of them, but one of them dominates. One of them is the one that we kind of live in. So the dominant one dominates when we automatically we go there under stress. The middle one, right, the one that isn't dominant and it isn't repressed, the one in the middle is the one that we pretty much live in most of the time. And then the bottom one The lowest one is sometimes it's a blind spot. It's like we don't even know how to do this. Okay, so anyway, I want to cover those, and that's what we're going to cover in here in the next few minutes. So let me go ahead and start with self-preservation. So I have been introducing myself as an 8, a sexual 8, and I finally took the Enneagram test, the second Enneagram test on Enneagram Institute, which is the variants, they're called, they're instinctual variants. And it turns out I'm a self-preservation 8, which I think is fascinating. Anyway, and Michael Naylor, who's the one that wrote the Alchemy book, which is the one that the titles came from and so forth. Anyway, and I'm in a session with him today. I'll go back to it as soon as I'm out of here. But anyway, he separates these instincts into 3 zones, and basically all that means is if you read all of them, you go, I'm some of that, but not others. So when he split it into zones, it's easy to see, am I like this? Am I like this? Am I like this? And if you have one that's very strong, or a couple that you are pretty strong in, more than likely that is the instinct that you have. And the reason I wanted to do these first is because last time that was almost more confusing than any of the types. A lot of people had reached out and said, I really can't tell which of these instincts I am, right? So and I think that's fascinating. So I wanted to cover this real quick. So a self-preservation, if you think about it, right, they're withdrawing instinct. The well-being part, that zone, takes care of the body and health, learns about nutrition, healthy eating, and so forth, creates balance and ease and so forth in their life. In zone 2, a self-preservation person is proficient with money, time, and energy. They apply their gifts to financial abundance and security. They create order rather than chaos. And the home domesticity zone creates a cozy nester home and wants a safe, strong home to relax in. They create order, stability, routines, and so forth. Okay, so I say that I am a self-pres. What made me say I wasn't a self-pres is because I don't have the well-being. I don't have that gene at all. I do not take care of my body or my health. I'm very healthy, but it's a gift. There's nothing I do. I'm really bad at my eating habits suck. I never work out. I barely take a walk, right? I just don't, there's no balance in my life at all. It's just not there. However, I am proficient with money and my time and my energy, and I am conserving in that respect. I do create order rather than chaos. You see, like my pantry is always organized, right? I'm like that. And my home, when I used to travel, I would turn my hotel into my home. My office was home. People would come to me and say, hey, do you have a can of soup? I forgot to bring anything for lunch today, right? I was that person. So I absolutely am a self-pres, and it's clear to me because 2 of those 3 are what I'm like. The 3rd, I'm not, right? That top one, I'm nothing like that, but that's okay, right? It's still there. So, okay, so that's self-preservation. The social instinct, the reading, interpreting, this person is really good at reading faces, bodies, and intentions, and they read them accurately. They adapt to those intelligently, and they can read who their allies are. They can read who their allies are. Okay, for the zone 2, which is the bonding, affiliating, they're a great team player. They create win-win scenarios. They develop a feeling of reciprocity, right? They create mutual support, and they're very curious about meeting people. And then the zone 3 contribution to others, their value comes from what they contribute. They have an instinctive desire to serve the greater good, and their mission is to help other people. Right now, I know that social is my lowest one because I am good in a classroom of reading faces, but in general, I'm not. I pretty much trust everyone, which is not probably, I mean, that's part of the innocence of the 8. Absolutely not a team player. I am like the worst team player in the world. Just the worst. You never want to be in a team with me, trust me. And then I am curious about meeting people, but it's probably not exactly what he's talking about here. And then once again, I guess anyway, when I tested on this, mine was 53, 50, and 47. So they're all 3 pretty close, because sometimes they're, the scores are big difference. Mine aren't big different, but I can tell the social is the low one for me. right? And for you, this is something, and once again, I'll print these out and get them out website, or ask Joy to post them on the website so you can look at them more closely, because then as we go through, now we get to actually from the very beginning, a little bit at least of the instincts, of the variations of the instincts in the first, right, before we cover them as part of the subtypes. Okay, anyway, all right, for the sexual evolutionary impulse, ability to drive and push the envelope, take risks, seek adventure, compelled to move into new and break up routines. They don't like routines. The broadcasting attraction, which is zone 2, needs to light themselves up, right? They have loads of charisma, juicy energy, and they find and approach others who broadcast the same. So these are the 8s that walk into a room. My niece is one of these. Walk into a room and they're immediately picking out the other people that are juicy and radiate that same energy. And then the third one is immersion fusion, the passion to lose oneself in the other, total immersion in oneness with activities, books, art, and so forth. They focus on what excites them. So that is the sexual instinct. We all of us have all 3. If you're curious about just kind of figuring them out, you can go to the EnneagramInstitute.com. It requires you to take 2 tests. If you really want to get a good thing here, you take first test first so you know what type you are. And then the second test is the instinctual variance. You might want to do that. Okay, so before session 0, which is a week from today, you're going to want to watch the video of session 0 before session 0. In the past, it was available to you after the sessions, but now before it. And then you want to read the 3 Instincts by Michael Naylor on EnneagramMain.com. I've got a link there. And Joy, if whoever can put the link in, that would be great. The other thing is, if you'd like, we can grab that and probably put it out there, or link to specifically that document. Maybe that's the way to do it. And then this might be something, just see which of the instincts seems dominant to you. You can either take the test, or you can kind of guess which of the instincts. I think in the class, we were all pretty bad in the instinct. At least I was really bad at guessing the instinct. I was like completely wrong. Okay, so I covered this in the final course session last time, but I want to cover it again. And these are some of the books, and I'll also have this posted out there so you can look it up. Wisdom of the Enneagram, the Wisdom of the Enneagram is by Russ Hudson and Don Russo. Complete Enneagram by Beatrice Chestnut, the Enneagram System's 27 personality subtypes, which is the combination of type and instinctual variant by Beatrice Chestnut, the 9 and 12 workbook by Don Carroll. These are all things that I've used in this class. The Alchemy of the Enneagram by Michael Naylor, the Enneagram for Recovery by Jenner Kay, which was the book that we focused on last time, and then the Sacred Enneagram by Christopher Hertz. The books that have been recommended by others, one is The Enneagram Made Easy, which is a pretty simple little book, but it's kind of fun. And then The Enneagram of Eating, I haven't even read that, but I heard that it's good. And The Enneagram Journal for Growth by Alyssa, whatever, something Polish. Okay, other books that I recommend, that I just recommend because I love them. Alcoholics Anonymous, the big book by Bill W. 12 Essential Insights of Emotional Sobriety by Ellen Berger, and also the session that Linda T did for Surrender School out there under our workshops, just absolutely awesome. Practicing the Here and Now by Herb K. The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. That's another book that'll change your life when you read it. Blessing My Demons by Chelsea Forbrook, who is one of my Enneagram teachers. It's called How to Name, Tame, and Transform Your Inner Critic. So if you're highly critical of yourself, this would be a good book for you. And then the Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo is the book that I read that at the start of every day. It's the one that gets me kind of moving in the right direction. Some excellent websites that you'll want to check out: surrenderschool.org, familycircleberlin.org, EnneagramMain.com, which is Michael Naylor's, Enneagram Institute, which is Russ Hudson's, and then BeatriceChestnut.com. All right, don't forget, every Tuesday and Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific, we have a reading room. We're reading Ellen Berger's 12 Insights for Emotional Sobriety, and it is awesome. And we read a few pages. Some weeks it ends up being like 2 paragraphs because there's a lot of sharing, which is awesome. We are not doing office hours for this course because that's what the sharing in the big group is. We may at some point in time break into breakout rooms too. That's entirely possible that we'll do that. It just depends as we go through, if that's something that people like to do or not. All right. So then once again, if you go out to surrenderschool.org, you can find the meeting number for the reading room. And then we're going to open it back for sharing.
Thanks for recovering with us.